Welcome back to Vic Property Law, where we take you through all things conveyancing and property law in Victoria. Today, we're going to take you through the second part of the contract of sale for land, or as it's commonly referred to, the vendor statement or section 32. Now, before we begin, remember, this information is general in nature. We advise that you always seek legal advice before acting on what you see and hear. Now, having said that, let's begin. In this video, we'll outline all the basics of what a vendor statement is and what you need to know about one. We'll be covering such things as what a vendor statement actually is and why it's called a section 32. Why does the vendor sign the vendor statement first? The title search or register search statement, the copy of the plan of subdivision, the outgoings in a vendor statement, building permits, and finally, property and detailed property reports. A vendor statement is the second half of a contract of sale, and it outlines all the disclosures made by the vendor. It includes all the outgoings, which will be explained later in this video, the building works completed, whether the property is in a bushfire-prone area, whether the property is affected by an owner's corporation or body corporate, which services are connected, and details about the title or register search statement. It is literally the vendor's statement about their property. You may have heard lawyers or real estate agents call it a section 32. They call it this because they're referring to the specific section of the legislation that guides a lawyer about what needs to be in a vendor's statement and why the vendor needs to sign it first. That legislation is called the Sale of Land Act 1962. Section is 32. Have a read through it. You may just find yourself learning a lot more than you really expected. Now that you know why the vendor statement is called a vendor statement or section 32, it's time to understand why the vendor signs first. The vendor signs the vendor statement on the same day as the purchaser or before the purchaser because it's their confirmation of the disclosures made, that they are accurate and that they have complied with section 32 subsection 1C of the Sale of Land Act. Bit of a mouthful, isn't it? That particular section requires the vendor to have signed the vendor statement before the purchaser signs the contract of sale. The title search or register search statement is usually one of the first attachments that follow the vendor statement. It'll tell you who has legal ownership, any mortgages on title, and any blemishes on the title. Now, a blemish means a caveat, or what we would call a registered interest simply put on the title, stopping the legal owner from dealing with the property. The person who lodged the caveat, or caveator as they're called, is made aware of any dealings being done with that particular property. But we'll cover this more in detail in a future video. The register search statement will also tell you if a covenant or restriction in how the land can be used is marked on title. A covenant, which is a restriction on how you can use the land, is generally something that will disallow you from building more than one home on the property or otherwise will some way restrict how you can use the property. Again, we will cover these types of things and covenants in future videos. A title search older than 3 to 6 months is out of date. It does not update you on the current status of that particular title. The title search will finally also tell you if the property is affected by an owner's corporation. The information that you're looking for is located towards the bottom of that register search statement. Let us know in the comments if you'd like a more in-depth video, particularly on register search statements or a title search as they're called. The copy of plan of subdivision tells you how the original block of land was cut up into separate smaller lots of land for purchasers like yourself to own and build a home on. It will also tell you if there's an easement on the property. Look for a straight, broken line, usually found along the side of your lot or at the back part. This is where easements are usually found. An easement is a service or pipeline under the ground that usually connects water and or sewage services to your property and others in the vicinity. It cannot be built over without the authorities' consent to build over it. So if you see a shed in the backyard, ask your lawyer to check if there's an easement that has been built over. This would be deemed an illegal structure if the authority responsible for the easement has not provided consent to build over it. Usually you'll find a consent to build over an easement within the vendor's statement and water information certificates. Again, seek instruction from your lawyer on these things. The outgoings are what we call council rates, water rates, or your owner's corporation or body corporate rates, and generally they outline the costs of the property by the authorities on an annual basis. A lot of firms will quote this with a buffer, so always check with your lawyer to confirm what the outgoings are more accurately. A vendor must disclose any building works completed in the last 7 years. This does not include general repairs overall, but always get this aspect checked with a lawyer, as the works don't necessarily need to be structural. Now if you're a vendor, always check with your lawyer and notify them of any works you've done and try to get them as many building permits or certificates of final inspection that you might have. If a vendor has arranged or done the works themselves without a building permit or contract for major domestic building works, the law requires them to provide an owner-builder report for any work done without a permit that's under $16,000. If the works exceed $16,000, they, being the vendor, need to also provide an owner-builder warranty insurance. If they have none of the permits or reports, speak with your lawyer. You may just be dealing with a defective contract. The property and detailed reports will give you general information about the property and how it's zoned. You want to focus on whether it's in a bushfire-prone area, termite or flood-prone area. You also want to confirm if it's in a general residential zone or neighbourhood residential zone or a mixed-use zone. If it's marked commercial zone, you'll have to go and get a commercial loan, which will really throw a spanner in the works. By now, if you've been following us, and we assume you have, you know what the basics of a contract are, the special conditions in a contract, and generally, the general conditions of a contract. And after watching this video, we hope you understand what a vendor statement is. If you're not feeling like a bit of a master or a property guru by now, you better go back and watch all the other videos. Please like, share and subscribe, and as always, we'll see you next time. Don't move. It's a real estate agent with a Section 27.